Part 3 of why my mom and stepdad got divorced and the night that it happened, the epilogue. So I just remembered that I had messed up one of the details in my last post. When we went to get our stuff, we took a lot of it the night that it happened. We went back the next day to get a few more things, and then there was also a third time that we got our stuff. And he was out of jail at that point, but the TPO was already in effect, so he was gone, and it was communicated through lawyers or cops. I'm not really sure. I was young, I didn't get all the details, but it was communicated that he wasn't there and he wouldn't be there while we got our stuff, and that's important later. So this story takes place about 4 years later, I believe. The TPO, I don't remember how long it was, honestly, but at this point I was 16 and I worked at a gas station in the same town where he lived, because we didn't move super far away after we found a house. It wasn't a different town, but it wasn't more than like 20 minutes away. So I was working at the gas station. At the time, I was the only cashier clerk. The other girl, I think, was on break or in the bathroom or something, needed a minute, whatever it may be. And we were busy. Like, there was a line of people, and there'd been a line of people for like an hour. So I'm in like full-on work mode. Like, I'm scanning people, checking people out, total, like, I'm done, like, getting shit done. So the next person in line put their stuff down on the counter. I scan it. I haven't made eye contact yet because, again, I'm in work mode. I, type in whatever, and I look up and I tell him his total, and that's when I realize it's my ex-stepdad. He looked a lot different. He had lost a significant amount of weight, and he also dyed his hair like silver. Sorry, the lighting's not great, but he had dyed his hair like silver, and I was like, that's not him, I'm fucking crazy. And that's when he looked at me and he said, "Are you Kayla?" Because I had also dyed my hair. I was a blonde before, and now I've had dark hair for years, so I was absolutely fucking speechless. I didn't know what to say. Like, what do I do? Like, there's a line of people behind him. Like, I don't know what to do. And this man proceeds to go on a whole rant. And, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I hated how things ended. That's not how I wanted everything to happen. Blah, 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 blah." On and on. Just pity party. Poor pity him. And he was like, "Can I give you a hug?" Again, I'm fucking speechless. Like, what do I do? I have like 10 people behind him in line. I don't know what to do. And I, at this point, haven't said anything to my memory. I was blank. Like, I didn't know what to say. I believe I just shook my head and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I leaned forward because there was a counter in between us. And he gave me a hug. I did not hug him back. And he left. And the other cashier, I don't know where she was, but I told the people behind him in line, which they had seen and heard everything that he had said, so I think they knew that there was something wrong. And I was like, "Hey guys, you're gonna have to wait a minute. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go get somebody." Luckily, most of the people that came to this gas station were regulars, so they knew me, and nobody in there had ever seen me like this. Because there was a few regulars that were there, like, every day. And they were, like, looking at me like, "Do we need to do something?" I loved my regulars. Anyways, I'm like, "No, just please give me a minute." I walk away, I go get the other cashier. I just say, "Hey, I need a minute. Can you please go take care of the counter?" And she's, again, never seen me like this. She's like, "Yeah, it's fine." So I go in the bathroom and I call my mom and I tell her what happened because I didn't know at this point if the TPO was still in effect, and if it was, that would have been a violation. He's not supposed to come within, I think it's like 300 feet, I don't know, a certain amount of distance from me or my place of work or her place of work. Obviously, he didn't know that I worked there, but once he saw me, he could have left. So I didn't know. It turns out the TPO was no longer in effect, so that wasn't a violation, but it was still not a good situation. And this was also around the time that we had finally gotten most of our stuff out of storage, and my mom was going through her stuff, and there was like a little jewelry chest, I believe it was, And when we had gotten the stuff, it went straight to storage. Okay, so it hadn't been looked at up until shortly before this interaction happened. And there was a note on a sticky note that he had wrote to her in her stuff. And again, this was during the TPO. When this note was written, it was during the TPO. So it was a violation because there was supposed to be no communication. I'll have to find, I have a picture of the note somewhere, but it was the creepiest fucking message. It was like, I'll see you on the other side, or I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, I'll miss you one day, things will, and I don't know, it's fucking creepy as shit. So this whole interaction, it was just, and my mom never, reported the violation of the TPO with that note. She never said anything. She didn't want to deal with it. She didn't want problems. She just wanted him out of our lives. But yeah, if y'all like this, I will try and find that note because I have a picture of it somewhere. And I can also post the video of the house after we came back in. Anyways, thank you for coming to my story time. I might do more. I don't know, I have a lot of stories. Let me know.
Listen to this creepy story, but not if you're laying in bed at night. This girl, Alicia, tells this story about her friend Estrella. Alicia says that she would describe herself as an open-minded skeptic, but her friend Estrella was a total non-believer until this happened to her. When Estrella was young, her and her family moved into a house, and her mother would sing to like nothing in these open, empty rooms all around the house. She was also talking to something in these rooms. Estrella said that she had never done that in previous homes, so she was really getting creeped out, and she confronted her mom about it. Her mom very casually just said there was a small little blonde girl that lived here, a little ghost girl, and she enjoyed when she'd sing and talk to her. So the kids would tease their mother about this, but she just kept doing it. So a while later, they moved again, and apparently this little ghost girl attached to their mother because once they got to the new house, she kept on doing this. So one night, Estrella was really mad at her mom. They were in a little bit of an argument earlier, and when her mom was singing to nothing in a room again, she finally got so mad, she went out and told her that she was stupid for thinking she was seeing somebody in the room. Real mean. Fast forward a little bit later, and in the middle of the night, Estrella was sleeping in her bed, and she bolted awake and just sat straight up, drenched in sweat. She immediately turned to look at her bedroom door, and standing in the doorway was a little blonde girl just staring at her. She said she wasn't like threatening or menacing or even doing anything, but she definitely wanted to make her presence known. Thanks, Mom, for bringing the ghost with you. If you have your own creepy story time, please submit it to the email in my bio, and if you haven't already done so, follow for more creepy story time.
በሰዓታችን ተገናኝተናል። ስኬሪ ስቶሪ ታይም። እኔ ሪፖርት እየተደረገብኝ ነው። ፋሚሊ እንዴት ዝም እንዳላችሁ አላውቅም። ጋይስ ሪፖስት አድርጉት ፕሊዝ። አትጥፊ ትላላችሁ። ሻዶ ባን እየተደረጉ እንዴት ላድርግ? ኮፒ ሊንክ አድርጉት 10 ጊዜ፣ ከዛ በኋላ ሪፖስት አድርጉት። እንግዲህ የላይክ ሼር ሪፖስቱን ጉዳይ በእናንተ ላይ ሐሳቤን ጥያለሁ። ወደ ታሪኩ እንሂድ። የዛሬ አስፈሪ ታሪክ እንግዲህ ትንሽ አስጨናቂ ታሪክ ነው። ስለዚህ በዚህ ሰዓት መጨነቅ ማትፈልጉ ካላችሁ፣ መብራት የጠፋባችሁ ካላችሁ ስክሮል አድርጉ። ኤኒዌይስ ባለ ታሪኳ ፒናር ትባላለች። ፒናር ታዲያ ጓደኛዋ ላይ የደረሰባትን ታሪክና በአይኗ ያየችውን ታሪክ ነው ያጋራችሁ። ሶ ፒናር ታሪኩን ያጋራችሁ ልጅ 19 ዓመቷ ነው። ጓደኛዋ ታሪኳ የተፈጠረባት ልጅ ደግሞ 23 ዓመቷ ነው። ስለዚህ በተወሰነ አመት ኤጅ ጋፕ አላቸው፣ ግን ፍሬንድስ ናቸው። ሶ ጓደኛዋ ተጣብሳለች፣ ቦይፍሬንድ ማለት ነውና ትንሽ ከሷ እድሜ በጣም ከፍ ያለ ነው። እሱ ወደ 20 ዓመት ምናምን ታላቋ ነው። አንዳንዴ ገንዘብን ብላችሁ ስትሄዱ ያ ገንዘብ መጥፊያችሁ ይሆናል። ይሄን ሰውዬ ትተዋወቃለች፣ ሁሉንም ነገር ነው የሚያደርግላት፣ የሚያስፈልጋትን ነገር በሙሉ ነው የሚገዛላት፣ ገንዘብ እንደ ጉድ ነው የሚሰጣት። ታዲያ ፒናር ጓደኛ አይታው ማታቀውን አይነት ህይወት መኖር ጀመረች። ፒናር እንዳለችው ከሆነ ለሷ ይዘነበው ወደዚህኛው የሚያካፋ ነበር፣ ምክንያቱም ገንዘብ እንደፈለገች ተሰጣት ነበር ለጓደኛው። ሶ ፒናር ጥርጣሬ ያደረባት መጣ። ይሄ ነገር too good to be true ሆነባት። ለጓደኛዋ የተሰማትን ነገር በግልጽ አልነገረቻትም፣ ምክንያቱም እሷም ተጠቃሚ እየሆነች ስለነበረ። የፒናር ጓደኛ ከሰውየው ጋር የነበራት ግንኙነት የትክክል የፍቅረኛሞች ግንኙነት ሳይሆን ይሄ እንዴት ነው በቃ ጊዜያዊ ለሆነ ነገር ነው የሚገናኙት። ሁለቱም ተስማምተው ሲቹዌሽንሺፕ ውስጥ ነው ያሉት እንጂ ሪል ሪሌሽንሺፕ ውስጥ አልነበሩም። 2 ሳምንት ትጠፋባታለች ማለት ነውና ፒናር መጨነቅ ትጀምራለች። የት ገባች ማሰብ ትጀምራለች። ስልክ ስትደውል አታነሳም። ከዛ ቀጥ ብላ ወደ ቤቷ ትሄዳለች። ምክንያቱም 2 ሳምንት ሙሉ ጓደኛዋ ጠፍታባት አታውቅም። ወደ ቤቷ ስትሄድ ታዲያ በር ስታንኳኳ እናቷ ናት የከፈተችው። እናቷ ታዲያ የመረበሽ ስሜት ውስጥ ነበረች። ፒናር ከበሩ አልፋ ወደ ውስጥ ስትዘልቅ ግን በጣም የሚያስጠላ ሽታ ይሸታት ጀመር። ይሄ ዲኮምፖዝ ያረገ ቦዲ ያለ አይደለ በቃ የአስክሬን አይነት ሽታ በጣም የቆየ ያ ሽታ ነው ሲሸታት የነበረው ነው። ወደ ላይ ሊያስመልሳት እየታገላቱላ ነበር። ታዲያ ምንድነው እዚህ ቤት የሚሸተው ምንድነው ነገሩ እያለች ወደ ውስጥ ስትገባ እናትየዋ አብራት ትገባለች። ጓደኛ ያለችው ብላ ስትጠይቅ እናትየዋ አለች መኝታ ቤት ተኝታለች ትላታለች። ከዛ ፒናር ዘላ ወደ መኝታ ቤት ስትገባ ጨለማ ክፍል ነው መኝታ ቤቱ እና አልጋ ላይ የሆነች ቀጭን ሴት ተኝታለች እና ጓደኛዋ አልመሰለቻትም። ምክንያቱም ጓደኛዋ በተፈጥሮ ሰውነቷ ቀጭን አይደለም እና ስታያት ቀጭን ሴት ናትና ሽታው ጭራሽ እየባሰ መጣ። ጊቢ ፒናር አለቻት። ከዛም እናትየው ወንበር ታመጣላትና ቁጭ ትላለች። ከዛ ጓደኛዋን ስታያት ማመን አልቻለችም። ከስታ ወረቀት አክላለች፣ ጠቁራለች እና ከሁሉም ደግሞ በጣም ያስገረማት ነገር ጸጉሯ ሸብቶ ነበር። 2 ሳምንት በሙሉ ለምን እንደጠፋች ትነግራት ጀመር። አብራው የነበረችው ከዚህ ሰውዬ ጋር ለ1 አመት ነው። 3 ወር አብሯት ያድር ነበረ። ከዛ በኋላ ምን ይላታል? ከዚህ በኋላ ከኔ ጋር ሳይሆን ከኔ እባብ ጋር ነው ማደር የምትችይው ይላታል። ከእባብ ጋር ማታድሪ ከሆነ ግን ይሄ ሁሉ ያፈራ ማለት እሱ የሰጣት ገንዘብ በሱ ገንዘብ ያፈራችው ንብረት በሙሉ እንደሚጠፋና ህይወቷ ተመልሶ ቁልቁል እንደሚወርድ ነው የነገራት። በዚህ ጊዜ እሺ ብላ ከእባቡ ጋር ለማደር ተስማማለች ማለት ነው። በዚህ ጊዜ ታዲያ ፒናር እንደተናገረችው ከሆነ ተደንቃ አፋን ከፍታ ነው ስትሰማት የነበረው። እንግዲህ በዛ ሽታ ውስጥ ቁጭ ብላ ነው ያን ሁሉ ነገር እየሰማች ያለችው ከጓደኛዋ። እሺ ብላ ተስማምታ 3 ወር ሙሉ ከእባብ ጋር ማደር ትጀምራለች ማለት ነው። ከዛ በኋላ ራንደም ማክሰኞ ቀን በጣም ትታመማለች። ካፏ ደም መጥፋት ትጀምራለች። ያስመልሳታል። በጣም ብዙ ሆስፒታል ስትሄድ ምንም አይነት ኢንፌክሽን የለባትም፣ ምንም አይነት በሽታ የለባትም። ነገር ግን ያንቀጠቅጣታል። በቃ ውስጧ ሰላም አጣ፣ በሽተኛ ሆነች። ከዛ ይሄንን ለጓደኛዋ እየነገረቻት ታዲያ ከላይ ያለውን የለበሰችውን ብርድ ልብስ ስትከፍተው ሽታው በጣም እየባሰ መጣና ፒናር ሊያስመልሳት ምንም አልቀራትም ነበር። በዚህ ጊዜ ታዲያ ከልጅቷ እግር ውስጥ የተለያዩ አይነት ትላትሎች መውጣት እንደጀመሩና ያንንም እንደተመለከተች ነው ፒናር የተናገረችው። ላይክ ዳውን ዴር ከዛ ጋር ሲወጡ የነበሩ ትሎች ነበሩ እና ቆዳዋን በሙሉ በልተዋት ቀልታ ቆሳስላ ነበር ያየቻት። ፒናር በጣም ትደነግጣለች። ምን እንደምትላት ራሱ ቃል ይጠፋባታል። ታዲያ ጓደኛዋ ታሪኳን መቀጠል ትጀምራለች። ታዲያ ሕክምና ማግኘት የምትችልባቸው ብላ ያሰበቻቸው ቦታዎች ሁሉ ትሄዳለች። ስፒሪቹዋል አባቶች ጋር ትሄዳለች፣ እናቶች ጋር ትሄዳለች። ነገር ግን ምንም መፍትሄ ሊሰጧት አልቻሉም እና ፋይናሊ አንድ የታወቀ አዋቂ ያለ ተብላ ወደዛ ትሄዳለች። ሰውየው ያያትና ወዲያውኑ ምን እንዳጋጠማት ይገባዋል። ፒናር ስትናገር እቺ ልጅ ጓደኛዋ በትንሽ አመት የምትበልጣት ጓደኛዋ ናት። 23 አመቷ ነው። ፒናር 19 አመቷ ነው። ነገር ግን ከዚህ ሰውዬ ጋር ከሆነች ጊዜ ጀምሮ ጸጉሯ ሸብቷል፣ ቆዳዋ ተሸብሽቧል። ትልቅ አሮጊት ሴትዮ ነበር የምትመስለው። ታዲያ ይህ አዋቂ የተባለው ሰውዬ ምን እንዳላት ለፒናር ትነግራት ጀመር። ምን አላት? 3 ወር ሙሉ ከሰይጣን ጋር ስትተኛ እንደነበር፣ ከዛ በኋላ ደግሞ ከሰይጣኑ ዋናው ጋር ይሄ ልጁ እሷ አብራው የነበረችው ልጅ የሰይጣኑ አገልጋይ እንደሆነ፣ ሰይጣኑ ደግሞ እባቡ እንደሆነ ይነግራታል። እና ምንድን ያደረጓት? ልጅነቷን ምጥጥ አድርገው ነው የወሰዱት። አብራ ባደረች ቁጥር ልጅነቷን ቀን ተቀን እየመጠጡ እየወሰዱባት ነበር። ከዛ በኋላ አውጥተው ጣሏት። ነገሩ በሙሉ የተበለሻሸው ለዛ ነው። መታመምም ጀመረች። እነዛ ትላትሎች ከውስጧ መውጣት ጀመሩ። መጥፎ ሽታ መሽተት ጀመረች እና ሞቷን እየተጠባበቀች እንደነበረ ነው ለጓደኛዋ የነገረቻት። በዚህ ጊዜ ፒናር መቆጣጠር አቅቷት ራሷን ዘላ ከቤቱ ትወጣለች። እያለቀሰች ከወጣች በኋላ ታዲያ ረጅም ቀናቶችን ከቤቷ ሳትወጣ ይህን ነገር እያሰላሰለች እና እየተጨነቀች ትቆያለች። ከተወሰኑ ቀናት በኋላ ታዲያ ጓደኛዋን ማየት ፈልጋ ተመልሳ ወደ ጓደኛዋ ቤት ትሄዳለች። በዚህ ጊዜ ነበረ ጓደኛዋ እንዳረፈች የተነገራት። ደህና ደሩ።
Do you guys want to hear a scary story? This is actually one of my own personal scary stories. I usually tell scary stories about the house I used to babysit at because it was super haunted, but this one is actually one from my home. This is a little quick one, but this is why I don't like looking in reflections of mirrors or TVs. I make sure I cover all my mirrors at night, and I just don't like to look into like the black glare of a TV when it's off. I get very edgy because of this, well, among other experiences that I had. So this is a quick story. I was 8 years old at the time. I was living in Prescott with my family, obviously, and I had had so many paranormal experiences that were dark and scary from such a young age in this house. Can't even tell you guys. But one in particular that would really scare me, I see the ghost of an old woman a lot in my house. And scary looking old woman, like, you know, the Gladys vibes from Weapons, or the one from Insidious, like just those traditional scary looking old women. But this, I don't know what this hair is doing. One of those very scary, unsettling, older looking uncanny valley women. However, with this entity I saw in my house, I never saw her face close, but I saw her face often, if that makes sense. So I couldn't make out certain details and descriptions with her all the time. I just remember she was an old woman. So one night, 8, like I said, and I remember I went out into our kitchen was like connected to our living room. So you walk in the kitchen and then it's like the living room, and then the end living room was our TV. So I walk into the kitchen to get something to drink or eat. I don't really remember what I was going for. Like I said, I was 8 years old. This was 20 years ago. And I walk into the kitchen and it just feels dark, spooky, unsettling. I hate every part of it, right? And I remember I was trying so hard not to look up because I felt like I was being watched, and I was so used to seeing unsettling things. Like I was so scared all the time. I didn't want to see everything. And so anyways, I finally get whatever it was I'm getting. And I remember this part so vividly. I look up into like the reflection, like I look up and I see the reflection of the TV, and I'm looking at it and I'm squinting because from behind me, like about 10 feet behind me, like not right next to me, I see my own shadow, and then behind me, silhouette of the old woman, and she's just standing behind me. And as I cannot break eye contact with what I'm seeing in the TV, she slowly, I hate even telling the story. She slowly starts walking towards me, but it was like she was dragging her body in the shadow. Like it was so not proportionate, and just looked like she was in pain and like struggling to move her body. And then I remember an arm from her shadow reached up, and I screamed. I turned around. I didn't see anything when I turned around. Oh, sorry. I looked back up, turned it like the other way after I just looked behind me, back into the reflection of the screen of the TV, and I see this silhouette standing damn near on top of me, like right next to me. And I remember that night I ran into my sister's room, and I couldn't even get out what was happening or what I just saw. Like I felt crazy, but I could not sleep. That was one of my first times I remember in my life like staying up all night, especially as a child, especially when it's on a sleepover or anything. Like I did not sleep. I would not open my eyes. I refused to open my eyes, but I could not bring myself to fall asleep. And after that, I have had other experiences that are a little similar, but I've been terrified to look into the glare of anything. So before you look into your TV when it's off or a mirror, just make sure you're ready for anything you could possibly see.
Should we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. Did you know?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
Storytime when I heard La Llorona in Mexico. This happened when I was around 13, 12, 11 years old. I don't really remember how old I was, but I was around that age when I heard La Llorona. That was like a chore in Mexico to take care of the animals, of giving them food, taking them to the monte. And monte is a forest where you take the animals. It's like a lot of bushes, and there's like hills in Mexico where I lived, and a lot of bushes, so we had to go deep in the monte where we could find a lot of grass so the sheep could eat grass. And our job was to make sure to keep all the goats in a circle and making sure they don't go
on their own. This specific day, only me and my brother went to go to the monte, and that day we were in charge of taking the goats, the sheep, to the monte, to the forest, and we started heading our way. Me and my brother were making sure that the goats were all gathered together, making sure we didn't lose no goats, because if we did lose any of the goats, the sheep would be in big trouble with my mom, because the goats were like food, money towards my family. So if we lost goats, we lost money. That day, me and my brother lost 3 goats, not 1 but 3, so that was a big no to my mom. So I knew that if I would get home, I would be in big trouble. So what I decided to do was to not go home. My brother, on the other hand, left home with the goats of the remaining goats. I didn't. I stayed. Keep in mind, me and my brother lost 3 goats. Keep in mind the number 3 towards the end of the story. I decided to go home, but not really. Like, I was close near to my house, but it was still around the monte. So where I live, it's a bunch of monte surrounding my house. It's like a lot of land, but surrounding with a lot of montes, a lot of forests, a lot of bushes. And it's already turning dark at this point, but I wasn't going home. I just stayed in the monte near my house. My mom started screaming my name so many times and started to say, "Do you want to come with us to your uncle's house because he just came back from the USA? We're gonna go visit him." I didn't fall for it. In my mind, I thought, what coincidence. Today, my uncle came back from the USA. My mom is calling me out so we can start going to my uncle's house. But the coincidence, today, the day that I lost 3 goats with my brother, they're going to my uncle's house. I'm not gonna fall for it. So I decided to not fall for it, and I just stayed in the monte, still heading close to the house. I dozed off. I didn't even notice if my mom actually went to my uncle's house. Later at night, I started to hear a cry, and the first thing that I thought in my mind, my brother got in trouble. He got yelled at, and he's crying right now. The cry sounded really loud, like it was really close. And the thing is that near my house, we have like a pozo. A pozo is like a well where we drink water from, where the water comes to our house. At that moment that I heard the cries, I wasn't scared because in my mind, it was my brother. So I just stayed by myself hidden until I fell asleep and dozed off. I don't know when the cry stopped. It was the next day, and the first thing I did was go to my brother and ask him, "You were the one who was crying last night." I knew it, you got in trouble. Confronting him. My brother was looking at me confused. "What do you mean? Yesterday, we went to my uncle's house." That's when I told him, "No, I heard you last night crying. You were crying really loud." And that's when my brother said, "No, I wasn't crying last night. I went to my uncle's house with my mom. But my mom was calling your name out and you didn't came with us." It turns out what I have heard was La Llorona. But at that time, at that moment when I heard the cryings, I thought it was my brother. So I wasn't scared at that moment until the next day when I found out that my brother was not the one crying, but it was La Llorona. Keep in mind, that day we lost 3 goats, the number 3. I heard a lot about stuff about the number 3, like paranormal. Also, late at night, where we live, there's a close to our house, a well, a pozo, where there's water. And I heard a whipping cry, and it was La Llorona. Not my brother, but La Llorona. That's what I believe, that I heard La Llorona that night when I heard the whipping cries, that what I thought it was my brother. This story is not mine. This story is from my mom. My mom told me this story, and when I heard this story, my mom doesn't talk about any of paranormal stuff. And when I heard about this story, I got the chills. I heard this story because all of a sudden, when we were in a gathering with my uncles and family, they started talking about the paranormal in Mexico, what they had experienced. And that's when my mom shared her story about hearing La Llorona when she was around 13, 12 years old. And she thought it was her brother, but turns out what she believes, what she heard, was La Llorona. Comment below if you guys have ever experienced of hearing La Llorona in Mexico when you go visit your family members, or if your mom or parents have heard La Llorona. because I know many have heard La Llorona in Mexico.
One of my followers, Joshua, sent a story in to me and it made me cry. Hang tight for the twist ending. He shares a story about his life and he starts it where he met this girl. He said he was so nervous trying to work up the courage to ask her out. His voice was shaky and his heart was pounding, but when he finally did, she said yes. He says they start dating and then days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, and he's just living his life happily with her. They were together about 3 years when they decided to move in together, and he said he got a really good job in sales. They build routines together, share groceries, make inside jokes, have fights, and make up. And then the big day comes where he proposes to her along the Pacific Northwest coastline. He remembers the cool air and the sound of the ocean churning. And then fast forward and they get married. He said it was a small and simple wedding. And then they had children. They had 2 daughters, 1 year apart. He says he cherished every moment of their childhood, the days that turned into years. One of his fondest memories was watching his wife at the park holding his oldest daughter's hand as they walked by the playground. She was wearing a simple black dress that moved softly in the breeze, and his heart just swells looking at her. His daughter had a little red sun hat that barely stayed on her head, and they had just gotten back from a family brunch. He's holding his youngest daughter on his hip, and she's sleepy and clingy, and she smells like syrup from the pancakes at brunch. Her hands are still sticky, and he's just enjoying every little moment, thinking back to all of the really happy times and some hard times too. He reminisces about holding them when they were sick and sitting at softball practices because his youngest daughter loves it. He talks about comforting them when their hearts were broken and eating cheap ice cream and watching rom-coms with them. He loves celebrating schoolwork, small victories, and late night talks. And now it's 18 years later and his youngest daughter is about to graduate high school. He was so upset because his new boss was on this power trip and he was making everybody stay late and he did not want to miss this graduation. In his frustration, he thought maybe he should just up and leave this company even though he's been there since he's 25. But all he wanted to do was get to the ceremony. He said there was a really bad thunderstorm and he could barely see to drive. The rain was pouring down, but he pushed through it because he was just determined to make it on time. The rain picked up even more, and then he sees 2 big, bright headlights coming straight towards him. And then he wakes up. He's in a tiny, musty room with a bunk bed overhead. At first, he doesn't recognize anything. And then realization hit, and he thought to himself, I'm back. He says there was no sense of like, oh, that was just a dream. He said it felt like life was ripped out of him. He's 23 years old. He's in a crappy shack that his ex-wife's parents forced them into, under their generosity, which always came with threats. He was in an abusive relationship with no job prospects and no freedom. He said he's sterile with no kids. They are not an option. He said, the kids I just raised for 18 years never existed. The roommate in the bunk above him stirs and his heart sinks. He says, it wasn't real. It wasn't my family. None of that happened. He said, but it felt like it did. He mourns them like real people, real daughters, a real marriage, a life he lived. He says, for weeks he grieved and then life had to move on. He says, but even now, 10 years later, he still thinks about them, his wife and children who only existed in a dream. Things are fading and he doesn't remember their faces anymore, but he remembers the love. I was going to try not to cry, but anyway, that one gets me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure he'll be in there reading them. I have so many thoughts on this, but I don't want to keep crying. So let me know what you think and follow for more creepy story time.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen. Did the window break?
Has anyone seen that show Monsters Inside of Me? I seen that show when I was younger and that instilled some ridiculous fears in me. Like one of them being if I had an open wound or something on my skin, I was scared that a bug would see that and take the opportunity to crawl in there and lay its little eggs inside of me, and then I wouldn't know until I seen the bugs crawling underneath my skin. And that took a long time to get over it. I was telling my dad about this maybe 5-6 years ago, and he just started laughing because of how silly it was, and I think that's when I realized like it definitely is silly. Another one that really stuck with me and still has stuck with me is always wash your hands, because this lady didn't wash hers after she was gardening. I don't know if she's wearing gloves or not, but she wiped her eye. When she wiped her eye, parasites started growing behind it, and that is honestly terrifying to me. I think it was parasites. But something scary happened to her eye, and she didn't know until she went to the doctor a few days later, so oof, scary stuff. Yeah, I just wanted to see if anyone out there had those same fears like that.